ever feel like something's missing? Like there's a gap in your life,
Yeah.
a longing for connection, purpose,
Hmm.
maybe even strength?
I think a lot of people wrestle with that feeling.
Well, today we're going to dive deep into the idea of community, especially for Christians. See if maybe that's the key
Yeah.
to unlocking that fulfillment and strength you've been looking
Yeah,
for.
that's a good point. And it's fascinating because the two sources we have today
Yeah.
really seem to speak to that longing for something more. The first is 4 reasons Christian community is important from Christianity Matters.
Right.
And the second is community, God's design for growth,
Right.
from Bible.org.
Awesome. So we're talking community, right? Specifically in the church.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, that word gets thrown around a lot. So what are these sources really getting at? When they talk about Christian community, what makes it different from, say, just a book club or a group of friends?
That's a great question. And it's something that both articles really emphasize. Christian community is not just about socializing or shared interests. It's about something much deeper. Shared faith, support, that's rooted in your relationship with Christ, and a shared journey of growth.
So it's not about just showing up at church on Sundays, going through the motions.
Definitely not. It's about recognizing that as Christians, we are interconnected. We're called to walk this path of faith together, to support each other, challenge each other, and to help each other grow. Think of it this way. A plant can survive on its own, but imagine how much more it thrives in a garden,
Right.
with other plants, sharing nutrients and sunlight.
Okay.
That's what Christian community is like for our spiritual lives.
That's a great analogy. It really paints a picture of how we can flourish when we're connected with other believers. But how does that actually play out? How does being part of this spiritual garden really impact us?
Well, the Christianity Matters article linked out 4 key reasons, and they all speak to that feeling of something missing that you described earlier.
Okay, lay them on me. What are these 4 pillars of community impact?
All right, first up is growth. The article argues that being part of a community helps you grow in your faith in ways that you just couldn't on your own. It's like having a spiritual personal trainer, but instead of just one person pushing you, it's a whole team of people cheering you on, offering wisdom, guidance, and keeping you accountable.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's easier to stay motivated when you've got people walking alongside you. Okay, so what's number 2?
Second is well-being. Community offers a deep sense of belonging and support, which is especially crucial during difficult times.
Yeah.
It's like having a safety net, knowing that you've got people you can turn to when life throws those curveballs, whether it's a personal crisis, a health challenge, or just the everyday struggles.
It's almost like it fulfills this deep need within us. Maybe we don't even realize it's missing until we experience it.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 down. What are the final 2 reasons?
All right, the third reason the article highlights is mission. It argues that being part of a community empowers you to make a difference in the world. It's not just about receiving support, it's about using your gifts to serve others within the community and beyond.
So it's about finding a sense of purpose, a way to channel your energy into something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And finally, the article makes this beautiful point about grace. Christian community itself is a gift from God, something to be cherished, not taken for granted.
Wow. That's powerful. It's so easy to get caught up in our own lives and forget to appreciate that, the gift of having that support system.
It really is. And the article actually includes a really poignant quote from Dietrich Bonhoeffer to drive this home.
Okay.
He says, "It is easily forgotten that the fellowship of Christian brethren is a gift of grace, a gift of the kingdom of God that any day may be taken from us."
Yeah. It's like, don't wait till it's gone to realize how precious it is. Right?
Yeah.
Embrace it now.
Absolutely. And that leads us to another fascinating aspect, which Bible.org delves into, the idea of accountability and guidance.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Let's unpack that a bit further. What's so special about accountability and guidance within a Christian community?
Well, the author of the Bible.org piece shares this personal anecdote that really illustrates this point. He talks about how he was struggling with writing a book.
Okay.
He felt overwhelmed, uncertain, unsure where to even begin. So he turned to his Christian community for guidance.
Okay, so he reached out for support and advice on this book project. What happened?
Exactly. And his community stepped up. They didn't just offer encouragement, they provided practical help. They brainstormed ideas.
Wow.
They offered to read drafts and give feedback, and even helped him manage his time so that he could actually write.
That is a fantastic example of how community can be that extra push. that we sometimes need to achieve our goals.
Yeah,
It's like having a team of cheerleaders and coaches all rolled into one.
that's a great way to put it. It really shows how being part of a community can provide that support and accountability that we often can't find anywhere else.
It makes you think, what goals or challenges are we facing that we could tackle better with that kind of support?
It's a great question to consider.
Absolutely. And it's not just about achieving our goals, right? Both of these articles suggest that the experience of prayer, worship, even service, it takes on a whole new dimension when we're part of a community.
Absolutely. They argue that these practices become richer and more meaningful when they're shared with others.
Yeah, and Bible.org actually shares this really touching story about a pastor who was deeply moved simply by a prayer of blessing from a member of his community. It highlights how much we crave that personal connection, especially in our faith.
It's true. We often underestimate the power of a genuine prayer, especially when it comes from someone who knows and cares for us. And within a community of faith, it can be even more powerful, like a direct line to a source of strength and comfort.
It's amazing how something as simple as a prayer can be so impactful in that setting. But it's not just about receiving support, is it?
No, it's not.
It's about using your own gifts and talents to serve others.
Exactly. Both sources really emphasize that community is a two-way street, a beautiful cycle of giving and receiving, supporting and being supported.
Like a spiritual ecosystem where everyone plays a vital role.
That's a great way to put it. And that sense of shared purpose can actually extend beyond the church itself. Both articles highlight how a thriving Christian community can be a powerful witness, to the world, showcasing the love, compassion, unity that Christ calls for.
Oh yeah, the classic city on a hill imagery. I'm curious how that actually plays out in practice. How can a community be that light to the world?
The idea is that when people see Christians genuinely loving and serving one another, it speaks volumes about their faith. It's a living example of Christ's teachings, showing what faith in action really looks like.
So it's not just talking the talk, it's walking the walk, showing those values through actions in the community and beyond.
Precisely. Both articles highlight how Christian communities are at the forefront of service and outreach, demonstrating God's love in practical ways. They're feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, visiting the sick, advocating for justice. They're not just talking about love, they're putting it into action.
It's amazing to think about how one community can have that kind of impact, spreading love and compassion throughout the world.
It really is. And that kind of authentic witness can be incredibly powerful, especially in a world that can be cynical about organized religion. It shows that faith isn't just about inward piety, but outward actions of love and compassion.
That's a great point. So it's about demonstrating the power of faith through our actions, not just words.
Exactly. And it raises a really important question for anyone listening. If you're feeling that sense of something missing, that longing for connection and purpose, how might exploring a church community help you find what you're looking for?
What a powerful question. It really makes you think about how connecting with other believers could unlock those deeper levels of fulfillment that we crave.
It does. And it makes me wonder, what are some practical steps people can take to explore, maybe even deepen their connection with a church community?
I think we need a part 2.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, folks, because we'll be right back to dive into that very question.
So we were just talking about how exploring a church community could be a powerful way to address that feeling of something missing in your life.
Right. But for some people, that can feel pretty daunting. Like, where do you even start?
Yeah, that's totally understandable. But the good news is both articles we've been looking at offer some really practical advice on finding and nurturing that sense of belonging.
Okay, good, because I need some practical tips. So where do they suggest we start?
Well, they both point to the church itself as a natural starting point.
Okay, that seems obvious. But what if you're feeling disconnected from your current church? Or maybe you haven't been to church in years. Where would you even begin to look?
Right, and it's important to remember that finding the right church community takes time. It's not about finding the biggest or trendiest church. It's about finding a place where you feel welcomed, valued, and challenged.
So it's about finding your tribe, that group of people that really get you. But how do you even know where to start looking for that kind of connection?
Both articles emphasize trying different churches. Visit different congregations and see where you feel a sense of resonance.
It's like dating, but for churches.
Exactly. And just like dating, Patience and persistence are key.
Good one.
Yeah.
So don't give up if you don't find the perfect fit right away.
Right. And what about people who are hesitant to join a church community, maybe because of past experiences or just have this negative perception of organized religion?
Yeah, that's a real thing.
It is. Churches, like any human institution, aren't perfect. They're made up of people who are all on their own journeys. And it's important to remember that one bad experience shouldn't define your perspective of church communities.
So don't let those past hurts or negative perceptions prevent you from finding something special.
Right. And it's also good to remember that not all churches are created equal. Some are more traditional.
Right.
Others are more contemporary. Some focus on social justice, while others might emphasize personal piety. The key is to find a community that aligns with your values, where you feel comfortable being yourself.
It goes back to finding your tribe, people who share your heart and passions.
Exactly. And once you find that community, you've got to be intentional about nurturing those relationships. You can't just show up on Sundays and observe.
Right. It's about actively engaging, building those connections.
Yes. Both articles emphasize active participation. Join a small group, volunteer, make an effort to connect outside of the services.
So go beyond the surface level.
Mm-hmm.
Invest in getting to know people, share your life with them, and support them.
Absolutely. It's about those authentic relationships where you can be yourself, share your struggles and joys, and experience that deep sense of belonging.
It sounds like building a strong community takes work, like tending a garden.
That's a great analogy. It's about consistency, nurturing those connections, and being patient with the process. Just like a garden, a thriving community can yield incredible fruit.
I like that. So both articles offer some practical tips. I'm always up for those.
Of course. One they highlight is start small. Don't feel like you have to do everything at once. Focus on building a few close relationships and go from there.
That makes sense. It's easy to get overwhelmed.
It is. Another tip is authenticity. Be yourself, share your struggles, your joys, and let people get to know the real you.
Vulnerability is key, right? People connect with that.
Exactly. And finally, both articles stress patience. Building genuine relationships takes time. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen overnight. Just keep showing up, connecting, and trust that God is working.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. But those rewards are worth it.
Absolutely. And remember, community isn't just about receiving support. It's also about giving back. Look for ways to use your talents to serve others. Volunteering, offering a listening ear, even just bringing a meal to someone in need, those small acts can make a big difference.
It's about contributing, being part of something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And that leads to another insight. Christian community isn't confined to the church building.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
They emphasize that our faith should extend into all areas of our lives. Connect with other Christians in your workplace, neighborhood, your social circles. It's about intentionally living out your faith, not just on Sundays.
So being a light in the world, right?
Yeah.
Letting your actions reflect Christ no matter where you are.
Exactly. Be a good neighbor, a supportive friend, a coworker who goes the extra mile. It's about embodying those Christian values in everything you do.
I like that. It's about weaving your faith into your everyday life. But what about when conflicts come up? Because let's be real, no community is perfect, right?
Of course not.
Disagreements happen. How do you navigate those challenges without, derailing everything?
That's a great question. And it's a reality of any close relationship, especially in a community.
So we've talked about how finding and nurturing a Christian community can help with that feeling of something missing. But what about when things get messy? How do you handle those conflicts and disagreements? That seems like a whole other conversation.
It is. And I think that's a great topic for part 3.
Welcome back. So we've been talking about how finding and nurturing a Christian community can really help with that feeling of something missing in your life. But let's be real. No community is perfect. Disagreements happen. Hurt feelings, conflicts, they're bound to pop up. How do we navigate all that without derailing the entire community?
That's a really important question. And building strong communities, it means not just celebrating the good times, but also being able to handle the challenges that come up.
It's like any close family, right?
Exactly.
You love each other, but you're going to bump heads sometime.
Yeah, and both of our sources acknowledge that. These challenges, they're just part of community life.
So how do we deal with those bumps in the road? How do we keep those disagreements or hurt feelings from turning into something bigger that hurts the whole community?
That's where those core principles of Christian love, forgiveness, and grace come in.
So we got to put those values into action. Walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Exactly. Remember all that each other language?
Yeah.
Love one another, forgive each other, bear one another's burdens. Those aren't just nice verses, they're the tools we need to navigate the tough stuff in any relationship, especially in a community of faith.
So it's not about avoiding conflict altogether. It's about how we approach it
Right.
with humility, understanding, a commitment to making things right again.
Exactly. And both articles give some really practical advice for that.
Okay, give me the conflict resolution gems.
Well, one thing they both emphasize is listening, really listening instead of just reacting. It's so easy to get defensive when conflict arises, but before you fire back, try to really hear what the other person is saying.
Putting yourself in their shoes.
Exactly.
Try to understand their perspective.
Right. Respond with empathy, not anger.
It's hard sometimes.
It is. And it leads to another important tip, being willing to extend grace. We all make mistakes. We're all imperfect.
Right, we're human. So offer forgiveness and understanding.
Yeah, just like Christ offers it to us.
Absolutely. And that doesn't mean we condone hurtful behavior, but it does mean approaching those situations with compassion, a desire to heal the relationship.
It's about focusing on the relationship, finding a way to move forward together.
We're all in this together, right? On the same team.
Exactly. And that brings up another crucial point, clear communication. When conflicts arise, don't just ignore them. Don't pretend they're not there. Address them openly and honestly, but do it with respect and a commitment to finding a solution.
Have those tough conversations, but in a way that, preserves the relationship.
Exactly. And it takes effort. Sometimes even seeking guidance from a pastor, a counselor, or a mentor can be really helpful to navigate those conversations effectively.
Like having a mediator.
Right.
Someone to help guide the conversation in a healthy direction.
Exactly. And even when disagreements or hurts happen, we have to remember the bigger picture, the shared faith, the goals we have in common, the love that binds us.
Don't lose sight of the forest for the trees, right?
Exactly. We're still united by something much greater than our differences.
Right. And, sometimes working through those challenges together can actually make the community stronger.
It can.
Deeper relationships, even greater sense of unity. It's like going through a fire, or a refining fire. It's tough, but it produces something beautiful and strong on the other side.
That's a great way to put it. And it brings us back to what we've been talking about. If you're looking for that sense of belonging, purpose, spiritual growth, if you feel like something's missing, the church community might be the answer.
It's a place to find support, encouragement, people who want to help you grow in your faith and walk with you through life's challenges, even the messy ones.
And I keep thinking about those words from Bonhoeffer. It is easily forgotten that the fellowship of Christian brethren is a gift of grace, a gift of the kingdom of God that any day may be taken from us.
So don't take it for granted. Embrace it. Nurture those relationships. Allow yourself to experience the beauty of belonging to something truly special.
And never underestimate the strength that comes from walking this path of faith together. Thanks for joining us. We hope this has given you something to think about, maybe even inspired you to explore the power of community.